Hi everybody, this is Charlene at Raising Bright Children group. Welcome to our first Facebook Live. A little unnerving. We're having some technical difficulties. I hope those of you who have joined that you're able to hear me. If you don't, of course you're not going to be able to hear this message, but you may have to change to Firefox or Explorer because a lot of people, when they do Facebook Lives, they have problems accessing it because they're in Google Chrome. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I want to talk, our topic today is three brains and how it affects learning and how it impacts learning. But before we get into that, I want to just go over a few things about the group and some things that I'm noticing. The first thing is about posting. I really encourage you to post. If you find things, I know that a lot of you spend some time on Facebook, if you find things that have to do with kids and parenting, books or music or nutrition things for kids or traditions or anything that you think that would help their learning, please, by all means, please post those things. They would be wonderful to have on our feed. If you are a business, on the second Wednesday of every month, please post what you're doing if it pertains to parenting and kids. When you post something about your business, make certain that you are also posting an image and that you post a link so that we can go and actually see what you're selling and so forth. The image is extremely important because if you just have the text in there, a lot of people just bypass it. They won't see it. So please put that in as well. Let's talk a little bit about engagement. Engagement is when I post something or you post something on the feed that we all go on there and instead of just going through and saying like, that we actually make a comment. In the 1st of January of this year, Mark Zuckerberg got on and he was talking about some of the Facebook rules that are changing, some of the algorithms that are changing, and they will affect Facebook groups. Before, if you were in a group, if you were in a closed group, every time I post something or someone else posts something, you would get a notification of it. But he said that Facebook is a social platform. Therefore, he wants to see social engagement. So he wants us to do more than just liking. If we do not have that social engagement, it will be picked up by the Facebook algorithms and we will be dinged. So please make comments. I go on there often throughout the day and make comments. And what will happen to our page is it will be like a regular business page. I have Good Parenting, Brighter Children, and Raising Bright Children is under the umbrella of that. I have over 19,000 followers. But because of the algorithms with Facebook, they only send out to maybe 1 to 2% of those people per week. That's why I post on that 6 times a day. If you want to know what I post on there, I try to post different things. Some of them are similar on our group, and so that's kind of how it works. But again, welcome. If you have not joined the Messenger bot, please do so because then you will automatically receive the Messenger bot. And any messages or anything that I'm posting, you will see an automatic notification. There's another thing is please take the survey, and let me tell you how the survey helps me. There's a number of you who have taken the survey. So there's 9 quick questions. A lot of them you're just posting yes or no. But the main question is I want to know what you need. I want to know where you need help. The 2 things that have come back is number 1 about grandparenting ideas, and number 2, there's a lot of you who have children with a variety of learning disabilities. So I've taken those 2 things very seriously. Next Friday at 10 a.m., I have 6 guest speakers actually lined up over the next 12 weeks. Allene Viennetta from Integrated Learning Strategies. She is an educational therapist. She's been over television numerous times about her what she does with children. She works with children anywhere from if they have attention problems all the way up the spectrum to autism and Down syndrome. And I've asked her to come and talk about the importance of movement and learning. So she will be my first guest speaker. Hopefully those of you who have kids with learning struggles, I certainly had one. My 3rd son was severely learning disabled. So hopefully she, in fact, I know she will be able to give you some great tips and ideas. And then the week after, or 2 weeks after that, I have a grandmother who is also a children's author who will be my guest on the program. So let's get into the main thing today. We're going to talk about the 3 brains, and I don't know how many of you have actually read the research on it. I've lectured about this over the last 10 years, and it's fascinating stuff. So let me tell you a story. The 1990s, it was dubbed the decade of the brain. because never before had the brain community been able to look at the brain as they now did. The reason? Technology. Now they had SPECT scans and PET scans and MRI scans and a number of other brain scans that they were able to look at the brain up close and personal. So here's what they found. The cortex of the brain is 85% of brain mass, and it handles our intellectual functions. Then there's a little part of the brain that's about the size of a walnut. Okay, and if you were to drill down from the top of your head, you would reach this little piece of the brain. It's called the limbic system, and it handles our emotions. That's where all of our emotional cells are. Okay, and it represents 15% of brain mass. But as these scientists and brain researchers, as they looked at this, they said, this is impossible. We all know that emotions will override intellectual functions any day of the week. Okay? I want you to think about this. When you are sad or lonely or depressed or anxious, are you interested in reading a textbook? No, I don't think so. Okay, so they were saying, how can 15% override the 85%? So a number of those scientists decided to go on a scavenger hunt throughout the rest of the body. They wanted to go and look in other organs of the body to see if there were emotional cells. And guess what they found? They went to the heart first, and they found that there are more emotional cells in the heart than there are in the brain, and that there are intellectual cells in the brain, so that the heart is actually a feeling, thinking organ. It is actually a brain. It is another brain. But as they were all positioning on the brain and on the heart and what it does and all the emotional cells, there was a doctor by the name of Michael Gershwin, and he said, wait 1 minute. He's a medical doctor. His specialty is the gastrointestinal tract. And he said, I have been studying, in his words, the ugly gut my entire career. And he said, there are more emotional cells in the gut than there are in the brain and in the heart combined. And he said, there are intellectual cells in the gut. He said, it is a thinking, feeling brain. And he says, and I propose that it is the second brain. And he wrote a book on it. And he said the brain in our head and the brain in our gut, they communicate with each other via the spinal cord. So the researchers went back to the heart, and they went back to see what kinds of emotional cells, because apparently we have different kinds of emotional cells. They found, this is what they basically found in the heart. It is a brain. So we have a brain in our head, and that brain in our head is responsible for our intellectual functions. That's the main responsibility of the brain in our head. The brain in our heart is something different. And listen to what they said. It has to do with our intuition. It has to do with our character. It has to do with our conscience, which I think is really interesting. I'm going to tell you about 4 books that you can read at the end. But that's the brain and the heart. That's where those types of emotional cells, so it's conscience, it's character, it's our intuitiveness. The brain in the head thinks, but the brain in the heart understands. And then we have the brain in the gut, and that one is teeming with emotions. If you go into religious texts, or even if you look in like 18th and 19th century literature, if you look under bowels or heart, you will see that they use different, particularly during the Middle Ages, the biblical times, they actually, this is what they thought about the gut, or the bowel as they called it: inward affection, tender mercy, kindness, benevolence, compassion. Now, when they were making these statements, of course, they thought it was all metaphorical. But it is not a metaphor. It's an actual physical reality. We have these 3 brains. There's numbers of books now and articles that have been written about them, and I'm actually getting ready to write a blog. Okay, so what does this have to do with parenting and our kids? Now, as you know, and this has been around for decades, scientists have said that there are windows of opportunity where our kids learn best. Now, they said that a lot of scientists have said that between the ages of 3 and 7, that the cortex of the brain is rapidly growing. So it is during this time that we need to give our kids a lot of rich experiences to help build their intellect, their creativity, their sense of wonder. Other scientists have gone back and they says, no, actually this window of opportunity is from 18 months to 7 years. That is where they need a lot of rich experiences. But now we know that the brain gets better with age, and we are constantly learning. Are there windows of opportunity? Yes. But if you miss those, some of you may have missed those as a child, you can still learn and you can still grow, you can still develop as long as you're using your brain. In fact, your brain is like wine. It does get better with age. Think about this. Think about the way that you thought and problem solved when you were in grade school, and then in junior high or middle school, and then in high school, and then as a young adult. You can see that your brain is getting better with age. Okay, so there are windows of opportunity, they know, for the intellect, the brain in your head. But what about emotions? What about character? What about our conscience, knowing right from wrong? When does that develop? There are certain religions that believe that the age of accountability is the age of 7. Others believe the age of 8, and still others believe the age of 12. So there's differing. Okay, so they know about the intellect. That has been fairly easy to measure, but they don't know about where the emotions come in, where those opportunities are. But what they do know is that parenting can make a huge difference with our children's emotions. They also know that the emotions, because we have so many emotional cells throughout our entire body, and by the way, every single organ holds a certain amount of emotional cells as well, they know that we're teeming with emotions, and therefore it's even more crucial than intellect. So even though the name of my Facebook group is Good Parenting Brighter Children, the closed group is Raising Brighter Children, yes, I mean, those types of words, brighter, they seem to be a magnet for parents. But if you read the description about this group, I also talked about raising emotionally stable kids. So parenting is important in one thing. Kids learn verbally and they learn through example. For example, if you were going to teach your child about honesty, which is a character quality, that is the heart. Okay, if you're going to teach them about honesty, you can talk to them about the qualities of honesty and everything until you're blue in the face. Your kids are going to listen to what you say, but they're going to see by example. Are you an honest parent? Are my parents honest? What about like conflict resolution? When you get angry about something, do you fly off the handle, or what do? You know, how do you handle that? Your children are going to pick that up. They will pick up your example. Do you teach your kids about conflict resolution? And the list goes on and on. So there isn't one necessary window of opportunity that we teach our children these things about emotions. It is an ongoing process. So let me explain to you how I write my blogs. When people blog, there's usually an editorial calendar. Most people try and get at least 6 months out. I have 5 years out. I have tons of material to share with you. When I first go to write the blog, I write an outline. I actually handwrite this. The top of it is brain in the head, then brain in the heart, brain in the gut. And I go back and I say, okay, what are the things, what are the tips, what are the specific things that I'm going to tell parents that will help them to raise a brighter child? Then I go to the brain and the heart. What types of tips am I going to give them that will help them with their child's character, their intuition, their intuitiveness, their conscience, their ability to, understand right and wrong? And then I go to the brain and the gut. What emotional impact is this blog going to have for parents? Are they going to feel something? And if they're going to feel something, what is that emotion? And that's how I write the blog. Now, I have readers. Those are people that I have to read my blogs and to tell me exactly how long it takes to read one of my blogs. Being able also to understand what they're reading. None of my blogs, which are between 1,200 to 1,600 words. If you don't have, it used to be when I started blogging in 2014, you could have a 500 to 600 word blog and get away with it. Now Google will not pick you up on their SEO search engines unless you at least have 1,000 to 1,200 words. So what has taken these people when they read from me, the longest of any of my blogs have taken to read was 5 minutes, 52 seconds. So my question is, do you have 6 minutes a week to read the blog, and I will give you a lot of information that is going to help your child with the brain in their head, the brain in their heart, and the brain in their gut. So at the end of the day, when they become adults, yes, you want bright kids. We all want bright, creative children that grow into incredible adults. But what we really want is we want emotionally stable kids so that they will be able to function in an ever-challenging world. Okay, a few books I'm going to tell you about. These are all favorites. This is not necessarily light reading, but it's interesting reading. The first one, Emotional Intelligence, Daniel Goleman. I like him as an author. He's written a number of books, and what he is mainly talking about is the importance of the emotions and of why we need to be very much aware. And according to what he is saying, he also believes, as do many scientists in the brain community and the educational community, that emotions are more important than intellect. So a lot of great ideas in there. This is one of my favorites, Heart Math. Okay, Heart Math is all about the heart, how it is another brain, how it is around, how it is the brain that helps us to understand, the intuitive brain, the character brain, all of that. So this is a great book. It also talks about how the heart is the largest oscillator of the body, meaning it has the strongest biorhythm and it wants all the other organs to go in sync with the heart's biorhythm. And it affects our health and it affects our well-being. Okay, Michael Gershwin's book, The Second Brain. Okay, this is a great book, but it's very scientific. There's different graphs and charts and everything that he has in it. This is not light reading. Probably this book should have been written for his colleagues, but it is very interesting as he talks about his experiences with the ugly gut. And save the best to last in terms of easy reading. The Heart Speaks. Okay, this is by Dr. G. I'm going to call her because I don't want to massacre her last name. I actually heard, she's a cardiologist in La Jolla, California, and I actually heard her speak at a conference. She was incredible. Now, let me tell you, remember when I said the heart has to do with character and it has to do with intuitiveness and it has to do with our conscience. When she deals with heart patients, the two things that she has them do immediately is that they need to forgive someone and they need to keep a gratitude journal. And she said those two things alone help to mend and heal the heart. She says that she can see a difference in a week when her heart patients have taken the time to actually go through the forgiveness process of someone who did something terrible to them, and also when they keep a daily gratitude journal. So her book is excellent. Now, I don't know how many of you are able to see this live. If you haven't been able to see it live, you can also catch it on, it will be on the feed on Raising Bright Children. I don't know if there's any questions. They don't necessarily come up, but if you have any questions and you were not able to see this live, put your questions by the video. I'll be checking it throughout the day and I can answer any questions that you have. I want to thank you, those of you who are able to see this live. Thank you for coming. It was exciting, and I will see you next week at 10 a.m. with Allene Viennetta of Integrated Learning Strategies, and she will be talking about the importance of kids and movement. Thank you.